Hey, Joe here, welcome back. I want to talk about the fat channel on the StudioLive Series III mixer, what it is, what the components are, more of an overview video, and then in subsequent videos we'll dive into the individual components more so you can get an idea of what they are like. So as you look at the mixer, we'll deal with just the mixer. There's software, but for now we'll just deal with the mixer. You look at the mixer, there's two basic sections. There's the fat channel section, and then there is the touch screen. They kind of mirror one another. You can use one or the other or both, but you probably want to become familiar with each section and how they work and how they interact. So let's look at them really quickly. The fat channel section, as we see here, is you can do everything you need to do on a given channel with just these buttons and these knobs and these little scribble strips up here. You don't necessarily have to use the screen at all, although I like the touch screen because it gives me more of a visual feedback of what's happening here. I kind of use them in tandem, and my process of using them evolves over time. So who knows what my process will look like a year from now, but I'll show you kind of where I'm at right now. So the way on a digital system, if you've never used a digital board before, each channel on the mixer has a select button. So as you can see, I've got channels here for some of my preamps, and if I want to adjust the fat channel settings on one of them, I select that channel, and then those settings for that channel are all right here waiting for us. So the main section, place where you're going to look and focus your attention when you first get in here, is this row of buttons. This allows you to access all the input settings, which includes preamp level, phase, polarity switch, things like that, panning, gate, compressor, EQ, and then these we're not going to worry about right now. So the main function of what I use, again, these videos are about what I use and how I use them, are here. Also, a lot of your common settings are in this section as well. Specifically, is this channel, are we listening to the analog input for channel, what are we on, channel 13? Or are we listening to the USB input, which is the playback from the computer? For what we're talking about today, we'll use it as the analog input. There's also SD card and network, not worried about those two. These are the two that you'll use the most, in my opinion. So it's set to analog. Now, when we click on input, now these change to show us different things. So we've got our preamp gain. So you may notice there aren't any preamp knobs across the top of the mixer anymore. It's all done digitally. So we can adjust the volume gain of this input here. We can adjust the high pass filter, which is rolling off the low end, which is separate from the EQ. That's something to remember. We can adjust our panning. We can turn left or right. Great thing about this, it is super annoying to try to turn this to get right back at center. You gotta really, it's almost impossible. So they give you the button. Each of these knobs has a button below it, and sometimes that button does stuff. So when we push the button on panning, boop, it pops it back to the center. Really nice to know. And then these are the other components on this channel. There's the gate, the compressor, the limiter, and then whether we're going to send the processing with the signal into Studio One, and then a delay that I'm not going to talk about. So this is kind of an overview section. So we can see this button below the compressor setting turns it on or off. This button turns the limiter on and off, and we can also adjust the threshold of the limiter. And the gate, we can adjust the threshold here and we can engage it on or off. So from a global standpoint, if we select input here, we can turn some things on and off globally without having to go to the individual one. I don't use that too much, maybe I could. I like to have more control. So for me, I'm usually in the EQ and compressor worlds, but they're all available. So when we hit each one of these, the scribble strips up here, and then also the touch screen change. So this is the gate page, this is the compressor page, this is the EQ page. Now we can change things here. You've seen before, we can change it to a different type of EQ if we want, or go with the standard EQ, and then we can adjust it using the screen and this circular rotary encoder here, or we can adjust them up here. As you can see on the EQ, we've got our frequencies, Q control, lots of that is there. We'll talk about that in another video. Compressor, we've got all our compressor settings, attack, release, input, output, depending on the type of compressor we've chosen, and then gate, same sort of thing. But this is really where you live, in this area, or you live over in the touchscreen, one of the two. But if you want to see things, this is the first place you come. I want to look at channel 14, okay, boink. I want to look at the panning, hit input, and now we can look at panning right there for that particular channel. And now we want to look at EQ. We hit EQ, now we're looking at EQ settings. What's interesting is that this will stay selected, so if we switch to channel 15, the EQ setting is still engaged, so we're still seeing EQ. So we can work on all the EQs together and then switch and work on compressors together and things like that. One other thing you'll want to know, channels 19 and 20 on my board are stereo. I've got an output from a main stage rig, which is from a laptop with sounds. You can call this just a keyboard input. I've got that as a stereo channel. So if I want it to be left and right, you can just pan one left and one right and just adjust them independently. But if you want to have it more like a true stereo channel, you select one of them. Let's say we select the left channel right here, and then we come up here to the fat channel settings and we see where it says stereo link. Hit that button and it is now linking the two. It always links the left channel is an odd number, the right channel is an even number, so you couldn't link 16 and 17. It would automatically link 16 and 15 or 17 and 18. It doesn't quite link them like that. But now these two are linked. That means any EQ settings, any compressor settings are happening on both channels, like a stereo track inside of Studio One. It also means that now this fader will follow the other one. So we always have the same levels there. You can still do things like adjust panning on this. If we hit input and look up at the panning control, we can see we can't pan it left and right, but we can change the width of it. If you want to start panning things differently, off to the left, off to the right on a stereo channel, you'd probably be better off not linking them and then adjusting the faders to different positions to accommodate for that. Okay? So that's an overview of what is possible with the fat channel. That is available on all your channels. So all of that processing, imagine doing that 30 years ago in a big studio where you needed 32, 24 channels of compressors and 24 individual EQs. That gets crazy really quickly. You can see how this is pretty powerful. Now, do I use all of these effects all the time? No, I use them occasionally and in certain instances, but it's really nice to know that they're there, and it's nice to know how to get to them fairly quickly if you need to do some adjustments pretty quickly on the fly. Okay, thanks for watching. Thanks to Presonus, and I'll see you in the next video.